As we step into 2025, one thing is clear: de-dollarization is not stopping, it's accelerating. China and other BRICS nations are scared of President Trump, and it's making them more determined to reduce their dependence on the US dollar and establish themselves as a global economic superpower. Their secret weapon? Gold. In fact, China resumed buying gold. And you know what's even more telling? They underreport their buy. Doesn't it make you wonder why? They recognize its global value and its ability to withstand economic shocks. Gold is a global asset with innate value. It's tangible, reliable, and it's immune to economic manipulation. China and other BRICS countries want to be prepared. They just don't want it to be known. But this isn't about nations. It's about you. In a world of shifting economic power, gold is your personal hedge against uncertainty. That's why Noble Gold Investments can help you secure your financial future with gold. Visit noblegoldinvestments.com today to learn more. And with a qualified account, receive 10 1-ounce silver American Eagle coins. That's noblegoldinvestments.com. And remember, there's always a risk of investment and there's no guarantee of any kind. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the podcast. We have a good friend and brother, Joe Williams, joining us back. He is one of our integral team members that we've always talked about behind the scenes, who's brave and humble enough to put himself out there to help us all gain in the knowledge that we need. So he's going to be discussing with us a lot of geopolitical and financial items that I think are at the top of everybody's mind frame, and also be talking about his latest book, Blindsided, which we will have at the end of the podcast, a trailer for you to get more information. It's a good book he sent to me, and it's actually a very intriguing read that I enjoyed, and I believe many of you will as well. So if you're new to the podcast, please do like, subscribe, and share so that others can gain in the knowledge you were afforded. Mr. Joe, how are you doing today, good sir?
Man, I'm good. I'm doing well, my brother. How you doing?
I'm doing good, buddy. It's always an honor to talk with you offline, and now having you on once again. So lots of ways we can dissect this pie, as you well know. Let's start with a video that you've got about the initiative I think is near and dear to everybody's hearts, President Trump's new executive order for the Sovereign Wealth Fund, which you and I both know to mean NESARA. And we can break that down a little bit for the people and kind of talk about some of the nuances. How's that sound?
That'll work. That'll work.
Okay.
All right. Am I sharing?
Yes, sir. The floor is yours.
Righty. Now, this video here. Now, if you're familiar with a lot of the things that we're doing, you know, Nasara, Jasara, and all that other stuff, you have to read between the lines when he says this. Now, this is one of the videos he posted when he was signing this executive order. This is an executive order here, not an executive action. This is an executive order. And I want people to listen to it closely, listen to every word. And you can compare the notes with Nasar and Jasara and know that this is part of that. They're not going to use those words, of course. And here we go.
Next, this is an executive order. Discharges your Secretary of the Treasury, Scott Bessent, and your Secretary of Commerce, Howard Lutnick, to begin a process that will hopefully result in the creation of an American sovereign wealth fund.
It's a very exciting event. We're going to have a sovereign wealth fund, which we've never had. We have a lot of things that create wealth, and you're seeing that over the last 2 weeks. I think we've created more wealth. Other people have created de-wealth. The people, my predecessors, we're creating a lot of wealth. Scott, maybe you'd like to say something about it, and I'd ask also Howard to say something about it.
Yes, sir. This is very exciting. We're going to stand this thing up within the next 12 months. We're going to monetize the asset side of the U.S. balance sheet for the American people. We're going to put the assets to work. And I think it's going to be very exciting. We're going to study best practices that's done around the world. It'll be a combination of liquid assets, assets that we have in this country as we work.
Just a side note. I want everyone to take a note at, I don't know, can you see my pointer, John?
There. Yeah, I'm sorry. I had myself muted. I see your pointer. Yes.
Yeah. Look at the images in the window, and then go back and look at Joe Biden when he's in the Oval Office signing anything. The images are different. This is the real Oval Office. This is the angle that you would see if you would look out of the real Oval Office. Mm-hmm. But with Biden, He was at stage left. I guess he was stage 7 or something. I don't know in the studios, but yeah, let's finish real quick. We'll go with a couple of more seconds of it because he pretty much got the main part of it out.
Right.
Work to bring them out for the American people.
The extraordinary size and scale of the US government and the business it does with companies should create value for American citizens. If we are going to buy 2 billion COVID vaccines, maybe we should have some warrants and some equity in these companies and have that grow for the help of the American people. So I bring all these things together. I think Scott and I will create an amazing sovereign wealth fund for you, sir.
All right.
So other
Now,
countries,
can you pause there real second?
Yeah.
One second, Joe. Bunch of comms in there I want to break down. with you.
Yes.
First of all-
I was going to bring it up.
Yeah, of course you were. Great minds, brother, as always.
Yeah.
Red cording. So you're seeing that more prominent like you saw in his first term. Yes, there's still gold fringe. That's going to be replaced as he restores the republic. Notice the word sovereign. What
Right.
does sovereignty refer to? Constitutionality, nationalism, restoring the republic. We're leaving the corporation, which is why he's signing all these plethora of executive orders to bring us back into the Constitution. You see gold on the backing of the curtains. Obviously, we know that's a gold backed standard, right? Now, Howard Lutnick talked about the jabs.
Right.
He's
And
really
the
saying,
icon I picked up was from that.
well, what you read between the lines before people get emotional or hyperbolic is he's saying they're going to stop them from trying to release any of the poison anymore and put a crackdown on it. And all profits that have been made to this point will be seized, ostensibly brought back to the American people. So you say, how do you know that? Well, I've shown you this before, Joe. I've shown it to my audience, the OFAC list, the
Right.
Office of Foreign Assets Control, the legal cops. They've been seizing the assets behind the scenes the entirety of this time, which is why you're seeing that OFAC list increase in size and scope in pages. When I gave it to you years ago, I think it was 1,200 page, or no, I'm sorry, it was 1,800 pages. Now it's well over 2,800 pages and climbing. It's probably more now since I last checked it. So there's a lot of things people have to see behind the lines or between the lines that they don't necessarily see, which is what we try to aid in bringing their awareness to, that makes for the bigger picture that's at play here. So I wanted to throw that in there.
Well, you're 100% right. We're going the same direction because the one thing I heard was Executive Order 13848. Now, in 13848, the seizing of properties and all of that, to me, what they're doing is introducing the fact that we as the United States own these companies now.
Right.
And the money that's invested in it, it's going to come back to the people. And so the people are going to have more of a say so on investing in these companies. So basically, they're already pushing towards creating our own medicines, creating our own vaccines. Everything that's going to be created is going to be created here in the United States. And I believe in a roundabout way, that is what he was talking about. That was Lutnick, right? Lutnick?
Right. Howard Lutnick. Yeah.
Yes, that was what he was talking about. And the same thing with the other guy, where the money that's going to be there is going to come from the companies that was seized. And I believe it's going to come back to the people. Now, one of the questions I would ask Donald Trump if I had it here, based on 13848, is how many companies do we own? And is the money that these companies generated coming back to the United States, like one big giant fund, and it's distributed to the people? Because if there was a stock or something like that we can buy shares of, that in this stock you had, let's just say, for the sake of numbers and in this conversation, let's just say you had 300 to 400 companies that were seized, but they didn't want to close these companies because these companies are functional. So we keep them running, but who owns them? You have a board of trustees that run the company, but the money comes back to the people. We invest in our own companies. You get what I'm saying? And
I do.
I hope that's what he's doing, and I pray that's what he's doing, because that would be a good idea.
Well, I think that's exactly what he's doing, Joe, because as you and I talked about in the past, both on and offline, companies like McDonald's, which he's shined a spotlight on all the time, people think, oh, he's a horrible eater and eats really unhealthily. What they don't realize are the comms inside of it, the golden arches.
Right.
Also,
right.
McDonald's, we believe they're going to infiltrate from the inside, remove all the corruption, all the toxicity in that food, bring back in a more organic type of food to, real meat, real food, et cetera, healthier options.
Right.
the McDonald's stock, we believe, will tank at some point, and we as the American public will be able to, if we want to, as an example, reinvest in said company and build it from the inside out, both externally from an investor standpoint and internally from a health standpoint. Now, I didn't have time to bring it up for the purpose of the podcast because we have a lot to cover today. But here's an example if people can see it. The OFAC list you've seen, I've sent it to you.
Right. Right.
And just people can see that it does exist. And this is a list of all the seizures and assets, and it goes down in alphabetical order. So again, I understand, folks, you can't see it, but I'm just giving you a visual matrix of it. That's keeping a running tally of all the countries, all the people in there that are being arrested, being sent to Gitmo or other places, having their assets seized and repatriated or redistributed back to America, to your point. Now, I'm going to put a video, Joe, that complements what you're talking about with respect to DOGE, right? The Department of Government Efficiency, which isn't actually part of the federal government at all, but it's a private department within President Trump's administration that can glut out the fat. And we're going to talk about how that relates to Iraq as well, something everybody's keen on. So everything kind of interconnects, right?
Right.
So here's a seminal example that I will share with you. Stand by for one moment, please, while I get the sound queued up properly. Okay, just 1 second. There we go. And here is the said video.
I've just learned what kind of employee Elon Musk is here inside the federal government. He's what's known as a special government employee, which means he's not really fully in the federal government, nor is he fully outside of it. Now, what we do know is he's not being paid for his position, and that he has an office space inside that building behind me, which is part of the White House campus, I should note. And also, we know that President Trump just confirmed in the Oval Office that he has a pretty broad purview. He's actually gotten access to a key payment system at the Treasury Department that is basically in charge of dispersing all of the trillions of dollars that the federal government sends out. It's so sensitive and critical that typically it's pretty close holds. But Elon Musk and his allies pushed for access over the weekend and got it from the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent. Now, being an SGE typically means you can only work 130 days or less out of a 365-day period. We'll see what that means for Elon Musk and whether or not it means he has to file a financial disclosure form that becomes public or not, or if he just files one that remains private inside the White House. That's a big question here, as well as how all of this affects those major contracts that he has, including for things like Starlink with the federal government. But yes, this does mean he is technically a federal employee, just not as full-time as some of the others that we've seen.
So there's a,
I've just learned what kind of government.
let me just stop this real quick.
Right.
So, yeah, so you can see sort of the articulation that they're putting it out there more and more and more. But if you take a look at the next example that I want to give you, let me just give me a second here. Let me share the screen with you on this front. Here's Elon Musk showing himself once again, staying on that thematicness, right, for Iraq. So President Trump has appointed him to extenuate beyond America. He's now in charge of the money flowing into Iraq. And one of the first decisions is to cancel U.S. aid, right, which has been a hot topic as of late. He's also stopping them, which has been funding Iraq's for the last 20 years, money laundering, being stolen by the militias and the Iranian proxies. You heard President Trump talking about putting the hammer down yesterday on Iran, the big brother to Iraq, as you well know, Joe. He's also taking over the central bank files to prevent smuggling, but also create transparency, because we're going into an east-west reset on a digital asset-backed economy, which means full transparency to the people. Okay, so the next one I would like to show you or direct your attention to is this. Let me know if you can you see the next slide?
I'm still looking at Elon.
Still looking at the other one. Okay, so let me go to that one here. Just bear with me a moment.
There it is. Yeah.
This is just a simple example. You and I talked about this last night. Now, obviously, the filing number or the structure number, if you will, or excuse me, the account number is not. Right. It's not a real number. It's just they're not going to put a real account number because somebody could steal and intercept that. But it begs the point that this is a good example of how Musk is doing the financial overview and transparency with respect to Iraq. And what they're doing is removing the SWIFT system, the old deep state system, which is anything but SWIFT, and infiltrating from within which is changing the format of how Iraqis get paid, putting it on the electronic platform, et cetera, et cetera. So I think you kind of get the gist of that. This was exciting. I don't know if you can see this here. The next one, is that coming up?
No, not yet.
All right, so let's pivot to that. This is, as of last night, the Kurdistan Region's Council of Ministers reaffirms its commitment to the federal budget law amendment, natural resources, federal oil ministry, Iraq, state, and international oil companies within Kurdistan. So in English, they're working to get the Kurdistan group, which is the largest group, as you know, faction. There's the Kurds, the Shiites, the Sunnis. There's lots of different factions in Iraq. Kurdistan region makes up roughly 17% of the region's population. So they're the biggest that have to be satisfied with their oil revenue stream, right? They're also now starting to pay the salaries of all the federal employees, the Iraqi citizens, going back to 2024, retroactive, which is important. Now, Joe, I'm going to set you up with a softball here because you have been making this point offline to me for quite some time. So you know where I'm going with this.
Right.
In order, the HCL law has now been passed. We're just waiting for it to optically hit the Gazette. I think you would even admit that a lot of this stuff has probably already been done behind the scenes, but people haven't seen it hit front of center yet. That's forthcoming. Now, in the softball to you, why is that significant to you as you see this information?
Well, one of the things I always say is you can't do business on a bad rate. And if the rate has been changed, let's put it this way, and we'll put it in common sense terms because we know what's happening. But in layman's terms, if a friend wants to sell you something, let's just say they want to sell you a bicycle, and you come with a piece of paper with a number written on there and say, "Hey, this is worth $100." That friend is going to say, "No, I don't want that."
Right.
Now you show up with an actual $100 bill. That friend is going to want to do business with you now.
Mhm.
And why? Because now you have legitimate, well, not the fiat currency, of course, but you know what I'm saying. But you show up with gold. Let's use gold. Let's say you show up with the amount to purchase the bike in gold. Now you can do business with people. Now you can do international business because that's what Iraq has been doing. They've been at the port handling shipping. They had a lot of things coming in. They're actually already rebuilding towns and cities over there. It's already started. It has been started. And that goes into kind of what the text I have. Let me share it again real quick.
Sure, go ahead.
All righty. I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that?
I can. Yep, I see it.
Okay. Yeah, it says, and this came out, I think, the day before Trump did the sovereignty speech he just did when he was signing that executive order. And it's ironic. And yesterday, he had Netanyahu there, and they did a presser together, and they stood behind podiums, and they were talking about how Gaza and how the United States is going to rebuild Gaza, and he's talking about even owning Gaza, to be honest with you, which I think that's a head fake, to be honest with you. Anyway, it says here, tonight will be a very important night. Decisions will be made that will change the regions. And now this is going back to what you showed just a few minutes ago.
Mm-hmm.
He said, we'll be signed a maximum pressure policy imposing international restrictions, preventing Iran from exporting oil, preventing the export of weapons. Now, all of this has to do with Iran having a nuclear weapon as well. And what did Trump say yesterday? He's signing a executive action preventing Iran from having a nuclear weapon. That has something to do with Nasara Jassara. All of this stuff is full circle. It's coming back. Everything is happening. And he's putting out there what he's doing. He's not saying the actual terms per se, but a lot of this stuff has to be done in this manner. It has to be done this way. A paper trail that will actually be put in stone to where it can't be changed. Everything that's going on now, they won't be able to alter it again, because I call it the great loophole. That's what's going on now. That's how they stole the country from us, because they were taking advantage of loopholes.
Right.
And in those loopholes, Trump, what he did is he's closing all of these loopholes. And now we can actually sustain a secure country now without you know, because once he leave, I say at least the next three presidents are gonna be laid. They're pretty much established. But you know, Satan doesn't go anywhere because he's on the earth already. He's here, so he's just gonna reestablish himself some other kind of way. But until then, it's going to be taken care of for at least the next, what, 16 to 20 years?
At least.
Yeah,
At least.
16 to 20 years. I think we're set up for that. I mean, once he's done with everything. And look, they even bring back tonight, the Abraham Accords will be written. Now, remember in his first term, they signed it, they signed the Abraham Accords.
Mm-hmm.
That thing has already been. Did you hear of Biden stopping the Abraham Accords? No, you haven't. You didn't hear any of that. So those Abraham Accords have been, this plan is worldwide. Everything that's going on is global. And it just has to be documented. But I don't want to take over the show.
Oh, no, you're good.
No,
You're
I
good.
love talking about this stuff. So
Oh, no, but you're an invaluable brother and a puzzle piece to our team on this front, especially, which is what I wanted to have you share.
Right.
Let me just stop that for you. Okay, so I'm going to give people, and you know, Joe, where I'm going with this from our many discussions. So then I think a logical question, well, okay, let's go back a second. You said, about Satan. Satan can only copy God. He can never replicate him.
He can
So
never
God
replicate.
always has the one up, just so people know that I'm covering that side of it. In case, oh, but I thought Satan wasn't in control. He's not. Okay. All he can do is copy. He can never innovate. So God always has the
Tell
blueprint
people,
to counteract.
and don't forget, when God casted Satan out of heaven, where did he fall? He didn't go to hell. He fell to the earth. Am I
Right.
correct? Tell me if I'm wrong.
No.
So that means that he's been wandering around here for the past umpteen thousand years,
Mm-hmm.
doing havoc, creating havoc. Excuse me.
Sure. But his time of reign is coming to an end too, because we also know in Revelations he gets cast into the pits of hell for over 1,000 years. So
Right.
thankfully we'll get a
peace.
respite for a while, for a season.
Yeah.
But so you mentioned it rightly that you can't exist on the old 1,300 rate, right?
Mhm.
So then that begs the question, when does it happen and how does it happen? Well, the when, folks, we don't know the exact date because we're not God and we don't have a seat at the top end of the table. But what we do know is where the real rate is the Ministry of Planning in the private sector. So a hint for you folks, if you might want to write this down, pay attention, because this is a nugget if you can catch it. Joe, you served in the military. The U.S. and Iraq copy each other, right? These countries copy each other, mirrors. So if they mirror, then they have the same tendencies. If I just said that the real rate is in the private sector, wouldn't that beg the item that over here stateside, the private side has to get paid before it goes public?
Yes. I mean, it has to be established. It has to be, first of all, in order to pay the bills, you have to have the money. So we can't pay bills if we don't have the money. The money is there. The gold is there. Everything is there, established. How many planes? 670 planes it took to bring the gold back?
And loads of gold, yeah.
Yeah. And so everything has been there. Trump has been behind the scenes, just sitting back, pointing, hey, move this, put that there, put that there. Yeah, Biden, yeah, he won the corporation presidency. Yeah. So you put him out front and let him do what he's going to do. But until then, we're going to handle this behind the scenes.
Yeah. So the point, folks, is that regarding the reset, as the private side is paid, the public will follow. I can't give any more details than that. Please don't ask me questions on that, because that's a whole Pandora's box we can't get into. You're not in it, so don't even worry about that. But the point is, as other good intel providers have put out, as the private sector over in Iraq comes out and the private side here in America, right, that is not you, gets paid, that paves the way for what we're all widely expecting, hope, praying, and anticipating to occur, which is, as Joe said, is unfolding out in this certain kind of a way. Now, what I'd like to do, Joe, is direct you and the audience's attention to an important puzzle piece or a complement to said reset, because you have to have a mechanism that monetizes this in a fast, safe, and transparent way. What better way to do that than with the following? And that is what I'm working to pull up right now. Let me know when you can see this.
Yes, I can see it.
This gentleman is the SBI Corporation CEO, Yoshitaka Kitao, and he's talking about XRP. Now, we know behind the scenes, well, we know front of scenes now, Gensler stepped down, but he stepped down privately a while ago because we showed you those documents. Now, we believe that the XRP case has already been decided in their favor, but again, optically it has to roll out a certain kind of way. So we're going to listen briefly to what the CEO here has to say about XRP and what happens once that case is optically resolved. Take a listen.
I anticipate a court decision in a few weeks. And if the court determines that Ripple's XRP is ultimately not a security, I expect the price could soar significantly. As major external shareholders, we would see substantial capital gains if the value increases. But even without selling, the valuation itself would be considerable. I'm optimistic that the outcome will be favorable soon.
So let's break that down real quick, Joe. Capital gains, not capital gains tax. There's a difference, right? President Trump's already, as you know, through me and others, dismantled the Federal Reserve into the Treasury back in 2020. You saw the documents, right? For yourself.
Right.
You've seen me live it out in other ways, and many others for that matter. That means that he decoupled income tax. He decoupled property tax.
Right.
Illegal and unconstitutional. He's now talked about estate tax. He's talked about, I think he already moved in his first term, if I'm not mistaken, the death tax, the excise tax, which refers to cars, which is bogus in and of itself, is ridiculous. You in Texas, thankfully, don't have to deal with that. And other states are going to follow. But he also is removing the capital gains tax. That refers typically to properties, homes. So if you have a starter home, you build a family, you flip it within 2.5 years, it was a way for them to sneak profit on top of your profit, which they're profiting off of your bonds and many other things people know about to some degree. He's removing the capital gains tax because it also applies to investments. These currencies are considered investments, but they're not taxable because there were no taxes on when you bought them. You bought a broker fee, not a tax. People get that confused. But when we go to redeem these or exchange them, there won't be any capital gains tax because it's being summarily removed. So the CEO is talking about the massive gains. All we need to see XRP do is hit $15 to $30, and we're in the sweet spot. But we know it's going to go into the hundreds to the thousands here pretty shortly. So I just want to get your impressions on that, Joe.
No, I agree. So he, let me see, I was going to say something earlier. Forgot the point I was going to make, but he pretty much tells you in a roundabout way that it's already established. It's established. Everything's set in place. It's just, they're waiting on go. They're waiting, and I believe they're waiting on Trump. And because of that, and it's going to jump up quick. The moment they hit go, it's going to jump up really quick. And that, what, $30 you said? It's going
in the 30 window, and then it'll go up. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to blow past that. It's going to blow past that really quick. I mean, once they hit the switch on it and use XRP, because XRP is going to be used in several different business functions out here, especially with financial transactions overseas as well as here in the United States. So no, XRP, I still own a few. I don't own a lot, but I still have a few of XRP.
Yeah, and it's the kind of situation where you just want to stack XRP. You treat it like it's in many ways your retirement fund. You don't want to be using it for a burger or something like that. I'm watching people buy with cryptocurrency and they're buying burgers with crypto. I'm like, why are you doing that? Right.
And I mean, don't get me wrong. If I were the business and I say it and you do it, hey, I'm winning. Because I would take that cryptocurrency and set it aside, and it's going to grow. It's going to quadruple within probably, if not this year, next year.
Easily.
It's going to quadruple.
That's the old adage, Joe. Know what you hold, right?
Yeah.
And hodl.
A $10 burger is going to turn into $1,000 in a matter of 6 months.
I don't even know if it'll get, it just depends on how fast they allow it to unwind. Because I've always described this as a slingshot. You pull back centrifugal or for the force of physics, and when it recoils the other way, it's going to go with an equal force, right? With
exactly. That's why I said we're going to blow past. we're going to blow past $30.
Yeah, yeah, facts. So I'll show you another little quick one here. And this complements the slide that you showed prior. So the Prime Minister Sudani receives the Kurdistan region government, Talabani, where they reviewed the most prominent files at national level in order to enhance excuse me, implementation of the government program in a way that meets the aspirations and citizens of all parts of Iraq. Now, notice they keep saying citizens over there. You
Right,
heard them
right.
say it over here. But we
Mhm.
also know that a series of nationalism is going to sweep the world vis-a-vis here with the Constitutional Republic and with the BRICS. Well, all they're really just saying is that they're queuing up the HCL law and getting everything ready. Because like you said a minute ago, when it goes, it's going to go very, very quickly. So would like to get your impressions, Joe, as a student, as a military person, as a former police officer, having lots of experiential knowledge in all these different areas. As we become a constitutional republic again here, and we believe it's going to be shortly as he's executive ordering his way out of the corporation, as you can see, what implications does it have for people to no longer be citizens and finally get the sense of nationality both here and throughout the world?
Well, I have a theory about that. I
Okay.
believe when Trump went on his tour, his world tour in his first term, he was introducing our version of the Constitution. And because of that, people have to be uh, naturalized. I guess that would be a good word to use. Um, and have to own, a citizen. Because if I'm correct, and tell me if I'm wrong, being a citizen here in the United States is the corporate side of it,
Correct.
in corporate side of it. So, but becoming a national would probably be even more having this, sovereign citizenship, being sovereign basically, is what everybody is striving for, and I believe that's what Trump is pushing on the rest of the world. Now, going back to them labeling themselves as citizens, they've never labeled themselves as citizens in other countries, especially foreign countries.
Right.
Just seeing that word citizen in that paragraph tells people that they have moved up in basically showing respect just to the citizen, the people. I'm going to say citizen. I'm saying the people of their country. But don't be surprised if all of these countries have a version of the Constitution. Once
Exactly.
you get that in place, that would solidify that citizenship around the world, and people being able to make their own decisions and not making decisions based on what the government said.
Right. So just to add and correct one thing you said. So nobody would be a sovereign citizen. What you would be, the citizen is right. That's under the corporation. But let's break that down one thing at a time, as you always do, Mike, in micro pieces.
Right.
Nobody here is really a citizen. And you say, what do you mean? Well, let's go through the checklist. Were you born in Washington, D.C.? No. 95+% of the population is not. Do you work for the federal government? Most do not. Do you make privileged income? People say, what's that mean? Most people I know earn their income. You work a job, you work a side hustle or a combination thereof, or you're doing what we're doing, right? That is earned income. You earned it off the sweat of your brow. The Bible says no man can tax anyone by the sweat of their brow.
Which
That's
is why
earned income.
taxes are illegal. And then
Right.
they'll
Right.
catch on that
Privilege.
later, but go ahead.
No, yeah, exactly. Privileged income would be Washington lobbyists, but those are federal workers on the dole. So most people are not citizens. We're nationalists. National is under the Constitution. That's why you hear President Trump saying, I'm bringing it back to the states. He's bringing us back to the Constitution, which means he's bringing us back to our states of origin where we're born. We will become state nationals as a byproduct of going back to the Constitution. And to your point, he's leveling up the other countries to create their own constitutional rights away from us, away from the dollar, which brings me to my next point. I think there's a lot of misinformation and confusion about this. So let's attempt to bring some clarity to our audience. We hear a lot about President Trump. I've gotten this a lot from people. Why is President Trump downing BRICS? He's not. You're not hearing the subtext. Remember, folks, last year this time, right, Joe, you were there. He said, I'm against crypto. Then what happened? He waited a while, 8 months.
He said it wasn't. He said it was unregulated. What he said, it was unregulated, and he was against it because it had no regulation or something like that.
No
This is the
oversight.
first-
Yeah.
Yeah,
Then now all of a sudden he wants to be the crypto czar,
right.
crypto king. Can you see a pattern, folks? He's working with BRICS. He's been working with Putin, Xi, and Modi and Bolsonaro. He just had, I think, Bolsonaro either coming in or just came in.
Right.
That tells me that
Week, wasn't it?
I think it's this week, as a matter of fact.
Oh no, it's this week. You're right.
Yeah.
It is this week. Yeah.
The point being is that it's the art of negotiation. He puts out bait to see what kind of reaction he's going to get, and then he does the inverse opposite, just like we do. Whatever they tell us in the media, we do the exact opposite. Whatever they tell us in society, we don't. We buck the trends here as truthers. So he's not really against BRICS. He's for them, but he has to appear like it to get his enemies drawn out into the light before he goes back in and supports it. What he's doing is removing the Federal Reserve note or dollar because it's not federal nor has any reserves.
Right.
So he's encouraging everybody to go into the US note, asset backed, which would pull us into our own thing while the two ships separate from each other in a visual, and allows BRICS to nationalize all the countries in there and power up their own currencies respectively. They're devaluing out of the dollar, the Federal Reserve dollar, and they're revaluing into asset-backed assets, whatever they own in the ground, gold, silver, platinum, palladium, crops. That's why you have a country like Zimbabwe. Yes, agro checks support the agriculture. Therefore, they will go, which I get that question a lot, along with the Zim bonds, which are gold-backed. So it's like peanut butter with a natural style peanut butter. When you have the oil and the peanut butter, you separate the two so they don't intermix because they have different functions. They complement, but they have different functionalities. So he's very much for BRICS. What he's against was the hegemony of the Federal Reserve dollar. I just want that to be clear. So any thoughts?
That was very clear. Yeah, me, I butchered it, but yeah, you nailed it.
You're fine. You're fine. On the geopolitical side, Joe, just to cover one of your many areas of expertise, we saw last week, with the plane that crashed in DC with the helicopter over the Potomac, and they have the black boxes. And then we saw in Philadelphia a private plane that had a lot of, I think, 20 people on it or something like that. What's your explanation for that? I've heard some discussion that was a missile that actually hit the plane. What can you share about those two items?
Well, I'm still looking for evidence of that, but it just did not drop out of that sky like a plane would fall. And you can tell that it just from the angles of some of the clips that it didn't look like a regular plane crash.
As we enter 2025, de-dollarization is accelerating. China and BRICS nations are reducing their dependence on the US dollar, and their secret weapon, gold. China's buying gold, quietly underreporting their purchases. Why? Because they know gold's global value, its ability to withstand economic shocks, and its immunity to manipulation. This isn't just about nations, it's about you. Gold is your personal hedge against uncertainty. Noble Gold Investments can help you secure your financial future with gold. Visit noblegoldinvestments.com now, and with a qualified account, receive 10 1-ounce silver American Eagle coins. Remember, there's a risk of investment and there's no guarantee of any kind.
If you noticed, one of the planes, it was actually, well, it first of all, it came out of nowhere because it had a real major overcast. And then once it appeared, it made a sharp turn downward and it sped up. And as fast as it did, that was going too fast to be an airplane. Now, crazy thing about that, and most people would ask, how do you know what a plane looks like when it crashed? Well, I witnessed one. I actually worked 3 plane accidents while I was working as a police officer. And one I was second unit, one I was third, and one I was primary and a witness. I was on the airstrip doing my checks like I normally would do at Hobby Airport, and watched the plane take off and crash at the same time. And so the way it came down, it didn't look anything like what I saw that day. Now, true enough, the plane didn't get as high as that missile came from, but plane. They say it's a plane, but I believe it was something else. To be honest with you, it just didn't look like your traditional plane going down. But I'm thumbing through right now to see if I can find the footage.
That's okay. nothing is as it seems is really the bottom line. So,
Right.
so Joe, as we wrap up the podcast for today, let's talk briefly about your self-published book you and Leslie put together, Blindsided, which again you sent me a copy and I did read and found it
Right.
thoroughly
Right.
entertaining. Just briefly touch on that and how you guys came up with the book, and are there any plans to turn it into a screenplay at some point?
Well, actually, John, it started off as a screenplay. It was
Ah,
a screenplay. It actually won screenwriting competition. We got third place in Hollywood,
okay.
um, fifth place in San Francisco, and we placed honorable mention in several other ones with the screenplay. We just decided to convert it into a book, and it's actually doing pretty well. It's doing pretty well. We just need to get it out there a little more, and I'll promote this thing every chance I get, because this was our first child. This is our first child, and we have several other ones. We have one that's coming out later, and this one here is Vexing in Vidalia. This is another one that we're working on now. It was a screenplay, and we're converting it into a book. So this is a hobby of ours. You'll see the policing in it as well, because of not a lot of the stories we have are in there, but the action and the writing is relatable. Coming from two police officers' point of view. But yeah, Blindsided is basically the homicide detective Joe Wills is tracking a vicious killer of a different sort. So we're tracking a killer in this, and he's leaving some crazy evidence. So that's all I'm going to say. I'm going to get people to go and buy the book, of course.
Yeah, of course.
But,
But it is a legit, straight up entertaining read. If a book doesn't, just like music, if it doesn't engage me, I tend to like. I think a lot of people disconnect. But it actually held my interest and made me want to kind of put other things aside to see, how the next scene or the next phase in the book would. How is it going to turn out? How is this going to, this scene traverse to the next? It was truly engaging, and I think you put a good amount of your personality and flair in that. So what we'll do, folks, is we will leave that link in the description so that you can go on Amazon and get it out. We definitely put a recommendation behind it. And as far as the currencies, of course, and the reset, if you are looking at dinar, dong, or zim, or uh, zim bonds, pardon me,
Zimba,
zim bonds, there's so many currencies: Venezuelan bolivar,
right?
Thai
Indonesia.
baht, and a whole maelstrom of them out there to investigate. We'll leave that link in the description for you, and you can take a look. Joe, as we close for today, any last words you have for the audience?
Be patient. Just be patient. Things are happening. Especially with the Doge stuff that's coming out right now. And just real quick about that Doge stuff that's coming on. And this young lady that I came across her on X, and she couldn't have explained it any better. And she used the best analogy ever. She said, if a person goes into a bank and steals the money, you have another person that records this person stealing the money. You put the recording out there and say, see, your money was stolen by this person. Why attack that person that did the recording? That's what's going on here. Elon Musk is telling you that your money was stolen, and it was stolen by these guys right here. But people are attacking him and the 19 to 24-year-olds that he has working for him. Now, it frustrates me because I was 18 when I signed up for the military. 19, I was 20. I was 20 when I went to war. I was old enough and young enough to go and fire a weapon, but coming over here, I can't do anything when it comes to decisions they want to make. You mean to tell me that a 19 or a 24-year-old can't work for a federal company, a federal government? And they're doxing these guys. These guys' lives are being threatened. Why? Because Elon Musk told you that someone was stealing your money. Now, who would attack Elon Musk? The criminal would. The criminal would attack his judgment because they don't want people to know that we are stealing your money. We have been stealing your money, and we want to keep stealing your money. But they want to attack him. They want to attack conservatives. They want to attack what Trump is doing, but they don't want to get it right. But I'm off my soapbox, man. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry. It's frustrating, man, especially when people's lives are in danger from just putting good information out.
No, I know your compassionate heart, so I know from whence you speak. And yeah, you're right. The underscoring point is to be patient and be persistent. about the truth and about what you know to be right, and not letting anyone gaslight you or psychologically effectuate you on what you know God is showing you to be true. And we appreciate you always doing that. Joe Williams, thanks for joining us, brother, for the podcast. Look forward to having you on again soon, and hope you have a blessed rest of your day.
All right, brother, take it easy, and I'll hit you up later, man.
Sounds good. God bless.
All right.
Following an arbitrary clue in the form of a painting of a murdered teen, Houston cold case detective Joe Wills journeys to Atlanta to meet the blind artist who claims to know nothing about the deceased victim. The investigation drives Wills deeper into a web of intrigue, where he encounters a suspect who seeks infamy of a different sort. As he closes in on the desperate person of interest, he realizes the murdersome menace has flipped the script and set his sights on him. Now, for the veteran cop who'll go down to the blood and dust to nab an elusive killer, one thing is certain: the stronger will survive. Will he be the one to persevere? Blindsided is a standalone novel that captures the haunting inspirations of a mind's eye, forever challenging the notion of the common criminal. Buy your copy now on Amazon.com or on your Kindle devices.